conversation.
Let's have a candid conversation. It's all about me and you. Let's have a candid conversation. No topic is taboo.
Now, Pastor R, you got condition on your love for me? Or you gonna just let me do what I want to do?
Yeah, I'm what dude call a man.
Let's have a candid conversation. No topic is taboo. When I talk to you,
It's Dr. Rich, y'all.
oh, it's all about me and you.
Me and you.
Let's have a candid conversation.
Hey, it's the real one, Dr. Rich. Happy November, November, November. Yes, prayerfully you have enjoyed your day thus far. And listen, I'm excited to be here with you today on this first Sunday in November. So lots of information today, great times, lots of laughter, and lots of conversation. No topic is taboo here with the real Dr. Rich. Listen, they usually call it No Shade November, but listen, unless you're a woman in menopause or perimenopause, listen, you don't have to worry about shaving your face, just the other body parts. Okay, that's just my little joke right there to get us all started, because sometimes the topics here are very heavy. They're very distressing and triggering for some. I am the host of Candid Conversations, the originator, the prognosticator, and all of those amazing things. I am the self-proclaimed mountain mover and definitely a purpose shaker in my own right. So listen, today, we fell back. It's Fallback Sunday. Fallback Sunday. So we gain an hour of rest. And for those who are adamant about their relationship, or intentional, should I say, about their relationship with Yah, then you gained an additional hour of prayer time, meditation. And I don't know, it's just something freeing about this season, this time that I'm in. Something liberating, freeing. I don't know, but I'm going to allow God, and I don't necessarily have to allow him. He's going to be who he is and do what he does. But what I mean by allow is I'm not going to stand in his way. I'm not going to be a problem for our Father. I'm going to step out of the way and allow him to be just who he says he is in our word. So I want to just take a moment to say thank you to those of you who joined my pastor, the preaching Idris, this morning for Extreme Life Changers. Thank you so much for joining. Prayerfully, you gained some nuggets to help you through the better part of your week, just in case, something pops off, something overwhelming hits, that you can go back and refer to your notes or what you gleaned from the message this morning. I'll be watching it again in replay. I was live, not for the entire sermon. I don't know how I missed it, but for the entire message. But I'll be going back to join in replay. Definitely need those to get me through the times that I'm facing. Don't know about you, but definitely having some challenging times. But listen, when we sign up to be his disciples, when we accept his call to be reconciled to him through Messiah, his son, his only begotten son, listen, we are joint heirs. We're his sons and daughters, and we are his sons and daughters because of his only begotten son. So listen, I'm just thankful that I have the blessing to be reconciled to him. So yeah, I'm going to stay out the way, stay off the radar, and allow him to continue to do what he does without causing him much problem, much ado about nothing. Listen, so excited for the topic today. The topic is going to be a little bit heavy, but it won't be too heavy. Prayerfully, you'll be able to um, glean and take some notes and take what you will from what I'm going to share. Pastor R asked me what was my topic today, and I had to really allow God to show me what the topic was for today because I had in mind what I would like to share here on Candid Conversations with the real Dr. Rich, but he had other plans. So, can you hear me, Pastor R? You can hear me? Okay, good. Because sometimes I know I don't have the mic adjusted. So today, let us delve into the relationship sector. I have some information and some tips that will be uploaded really soon about um, CSA and DMST, child sexual abuse and domestic minor sex trafficking. We'll definitely have some information and share some notes here, some valuable information, if I do say so, because what I tend to do is not follow the crowd. I'm not a bandwagoner, so I'm not so copy and paste, so clip and save, meaning I'm not one to just always go with what everyone else is saying, but I tend to sit at the master's feet, share with you what I believe should be shared without being someone's puppet or copycat. So many people fight with having that imposter syndrome because they battle inwardly about who they are and what their purpose is and trying to fit in and really not knowing who they are and having so much on them that they're confused about who they are. So they need that. And I'm praying for those individuals who battle with that type of mindset. But it's good to be yourself. It's good to be free without strings attached, with just following Yah, just following him and knowing that no matter what people say, no matter what they do, no matter how they treat you, that you're free in him. And I know what it's like to feel like you're bound, that you're unable to be who you truly are. Not necessarily with the imposter syndrome, but with battling what others may say about you not fitting into the mold of who you are truly, not being able to share what you would like to share without strings attached because you feel that you need someone else to validate you, to maybe have the things that you desire in life. You're not really fully and completely trusting God for those things, but you're trusting in resources more than the source. Did you get that? You're trusting more in resources than you are the source. See, when you know that God alone is your source, yes, it will be painful, some things that you experience, and some situations and circumstances you can't change, and you pray for change, but you immediately or at some point realize that in due season, God will release you from certain tests, from certain challenges. And if it doesn't glorify him at that point, when you come to yourself, when you come to your senses, when the mind of Christ is also the mind that you welcome, it's the mind that you encompass, then you'll be better. You're not the same. So what are you saying, Dr. Rich? You're saying a lot of nothing. No, it's actually something. What I'm saying is there are times in our lives. I'll give you an example. Sometimes in marriage, you want to be free. You don't want to be quote unquote bound. You don't want to be in covenant any longer. However, a man or woman of God will not look for a way of escape. Some people have tried to exit their covenant marriages and want to run back home or want to run to a place of refuge instead of facing those fears, instead of trusting God, instead of humbling ourselves, instead of praying, instead of seeking counseling. What we would tend to do is just, want to run like the world does, like the celebrities do, like people we know have done. I'm not saying by any means that you should remain in a violent relationship or marriage. That's not, I don't mean relationship, I mean marriage. You should not, I'm not admonishing anyone or encouraging anyone to stay in an unhealthy marriage. But an unhealthy marriage is not your typical ebbs and flows of marriage. It's not because we disagree or because I'm having a hard time dealing with the children. I was counseling an individual, and she told me that she left her marriage because her child was abusive. She told me that her husband did not, in fact, protect her from their child. And I know you may be surprised at this, but I can relate. I can relate. Totally understand. And everyone's situation is not cookie cutter. It's not the same. There are challenges that arise, especially in covenant marriages, in covenants where we have agreed, not only before men, women, boys, and girls, but before our Father, that for better or for worse, sickness and in health, until death do us part. It has nothing to do with domestic violence. And I'm speaking a little bit on domestic violence, although that's not our topic for today, because I'm speaking on it because we just left the month that's recognized as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I am an activist and advocate, as well as proponent against domestic violence. So, there will be times that things happen in marriages. However, if it's repetitive, if it's long standing, if it's week after week, month after month, year after year, and you can identify those red flags, which is my topic for today, then most definitely, you probably want to consider your options. You have options, and it's your decision. And a lot of times we make poor decisions. We make the decision every day, whether to sin or not to sin, whether to love God with our whole hearts or put him on the back burner, whether to put him first as a priority or to make him an option, whether to remain faithful in our pursuit of kingdom living or to abandon that, whether to remain faithful to our spouses or to take this opportunity to tip out, whether to put a Band-Aid on our problems or to actually get in and have an emergency surgery where God himself operates on our heart, whether to attack people out of emotions or whether to process our emotions and to attempt to get things to a place where we can all, with a level head, have conversations, candid conversations, if you will. So I'm just saying there are choices and decisions to be made in every aspect of life. So with that being said, I just want to encourage us to continue to, be the best versions of ourselves, to not take it lightly, the people we have in our corner, to not only support us, but to celebrate our small and large victories. There are some things that we consider so small, but celebrate those yourself, sis. That's one of my other platforms. Celebrate, sis. You have to be able to celebrate your victories, even as the smallest of victories. Celebrate those. However, let me put a disclaimer. We should not expect others necessarily to celebrate. If they do, that's great. And if they don't, that's great. We need to celebrate ourselves. Celebrate ourselves, whether someone else does or not. We need to celebrate those. It's similar to our those types of affirmations that we have. What good, I always say, what good are affirmations if we don't believe them ourselves? If we don't believe our affirmations, they're just words that we're saying. We have to get out of our own heads and get into the Word of God. So if you're not a believer, I would ask you today to trust God, accept His Son as Savior, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus our Messiah, the sent one, and repent. Allow Him access to our very beings and acknowledge that we are sinners in need of a Savior. Because if we don't accept Him as Savior, then someone will take His place on the throne of our hearts, whether it be an individual, a partner, a parent, a child, material possessions, all of these things, our neurological issues, ADD, ADHD, OCD, uh, ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, these things will take over our very being. And those will become our gods because we'll become slaves to those things rather than being a willing servant and disciple of our Heavenly Father. So that's the perfect segue into, like I was saying earlier, um, it's a blessing to be able to have choices and to make right decisions. And I would, like I said, I would never push a woman or a man to leave a covenant. However, you know what's best for you without excuses. Don't make excuses. If there's a pattern of behavior, like I said, when that woman left her 30 plus year marriage, she said that she was over it. And I understood that because sometimes rearing children can be daunting. It can be very unsettling. It can be a bit much, especially when children are so demanding and so full of sin. As adults, we are as well, but we've had an opportunity to grow a little bit more to properly process and assess certain things. And the children are not taking care of us, we're taking care of them. So I can understand if a mom feels unprotected in her own home. I could relate. I definitely could relate to that. And so I didn't ask other things about her marriage. I didn't ask how she responded other than what she shared and that she left. Because sometimes children want to be grown in our homes, and being grown, I have my own belief about being grown and being an adult. Those are two very different terms, very different, because grown people won't be accountable. They won't be responsible. They're very immature. They're very emotional from my perspective and from my observation. They don't tackle the day-to-day expenses of being grown. It's just in number or in actions. Like if they're out here being intimate as though they were married, or because I'm a believer, or if they're in their own minds, they're working a job, but they're not really paying any real bills. But a minor is definitely not an adult or grown, but certain actions may cause them to believe that they are. So, yeah. But anyway, I'm praying for her in her new marriage, that this one would be whole and that it would be healthy. And that's what we're discussing today. Not marriage, but green versus red flags. Green versus red flags. We often hear about these red flags, red flag this, red flag that, especially on the dating scene. So many people discuss the red flags, but Dr. Rich is here today to discuss the green versus red flags. I love my theme music, and oftentimes I'm asked, is that you sing? No, it's not me singing. I wish it were. I wish I could take credit for it because she sounds so beautiful. And that was my former producer, Dula. That's what we call him. That's his stage name, Dula. But Anthony, that's his name, Anthony Holmes Sr., who is the father of Hit Kid, Anthony Holmes II. And we know Hit Kid because he's the one who put Glorilla on the map with F Ninja Free. I mean, for those of you who are so holy, praise God that you don't know what that is. That's fine, but I do because, as I stated, Hit Kid's dad was my producer for a couple of years, and I do appreciate him so much. Check him out sometime. He's on all of your streaming platforms, Dula. So kudos and shout out to you, Dula, if you're watching today. But anyway, the green versus red flags. So listen, we can talk about red flags all day long, especially when we call ourselves diagnosing someone else and we don't even have the wherewithal. We have earned no credits, no CEUs, no. And listen, I'm not the one to talk about degrees and all that stuff, but I'm going somewhere here. So let's talk about the dreams that you're chasing and the issues that you're facing. Dr. Rich has the tools to help you bake it. We can talk about it. Let's have a candid conversation. Yeah, I mean, right now it's appropriate for me to bring up education, formal education, post-secondary education, because so many of us, we Google information. And it's not as cut and dry as that, because if it were, then all of these doctors, all of these mental health experts and professionals, I'm a mental health professional. So what that means is I don't want to call myself an expert because I'm still learning, but I do have degrees. And I think sometimes we Google so much and we just want to put things in a bracket because of one or two items, but there's a lot that's encompassed in diagnosing people. Even Dr. Phil, whom I consider a colleague, doesn't do that. You have to assess individuals. You have to take them in. I mean, some things are kind of, they're familiar to us, and we can kind of, those of us who have been in the field and who have certifications for certain things, yes. And I am so glad to be back in my element doing what I enjoy doing. Whereas before, so many things were pulling on me, so many people, but now I'm glad to be back in this space. But I tell you what, unless you're going to diagnose yourself first, leave the diagnosis to the experts and professionals. So with that being said, some of us have seen red flags. We've even been a red flag. Okay. Our spouses, our children, others who've observed us, the same patterns and behaviors. It's identifiable. It's right there in our faces. But I'll tell you what, I'm one to bring balance to the equation. So let's discuss green flags in relationships. So we understand what red flags are. We understand that red flags may encompass this particular term. I don't like to use it very often, although I've noticed that so many people, I believe, who battle this themselves often try to project it onto others. But jealousy in a relationship, whether it's a platonic relationship, whether it's a marriage, parent, child, parent, jealousy is definitely a red flag. We know this, we've heard it. Sometimes that's why couples, whether they're married or unmarried, can't make it because one or the other is jealous of their partner. That's never a good thing. When we refuse to compromise. And listen, everything that I'm sharing right now about the red and green flags, or green and red flags, there's a lot more that goes into it. But for the sake of time, I can't delve that deeply into it. I'll have to get into my specific YouTube page. I'm having a YouTube page created so that I can discuss a little bit more in depth. And I also have my bi-monthly or quarterly sessions for women who are overcoming trauma or who desire to overcome trauma. So I can't get into it right now, but just know that there's much more to it and I can delve deeper into it. But when we're talking about refusal to compromise as a red flag, that has subcategories to it, because parents don't necessarily have to compromise with their minor children or even their adult children, depending on several factors, such as if the adult child is living in your home. Also, if the adult child is dependent upon you and you're not a narcissist, if they're dependent on you for a lot, then there may be limits to your compromise. Like if they already know going in that this is just a scenario. This hasn't happened to me, but I have counseled individuals and I do know individuals who have agreed to set their adult children up into their own apartments or homes, meaning that they'll pay the utilities, they'll pay a portion of the rent, they'll pay their phone bills, they'll pay the majority of their bill or at least go 50-50 with them, insurance and things like that. However, they know in the contract and even before they became of age that their parent does not agree to cohabitation. That's a deal breaker. That's a game changer. So in those instances, I told you that there are subcategories. So when we're talking about red flags and refusal to compromise, now between adults, a refusal to compromise is definitely a red flag. However, if we're talking about minor children and the minor child wants to stay out, and when I say minor, I mean 18 and under. Okay, let's get that clear. I'm not talking about those who are over 18, because over 18, in my opinion, is a young adult. But those 18 and younger, the child may want to, because of what their peers or friends are doing, they want to be able to stay out till 2 a.m. on the weekend. You as a parent don't necessarily, and I'm saying don't necessarily because we're different. You may have different views as a parent. You may be okay with that kind of compromise, but for the parents who don't, stand your ground, because as a child 18 and younger, staying out over, till 2 a.m. in the morning, what's the benefit of that for the child or for you? You have to ask yourself those things. So be careful. That's the same thing with Google. That's why I say when we're Googling things and trying to be an expert or professional, that's not the same as having a degree and being studied in that particular field of study. Okay, subject matter, content. And following someone else and just listening to it over and over does not mean that you're a professional or an expert. So yes, so lack of communication, no matter if you're a couple, married or single, but a couple, if you're a parent child, if you're a boss and an employee, whatever the case may be, lack of communication is definitely a red flag. Controlling behaviors. Wow, that's a huge red flag, especially with narcissists. I'm not going to speak in depth on narcissism, although I am studied in that as well. Again, controlling behaviors. That encompasses manipulation. That encompasses wielding things, whether it be money, monetary, or in the form of gifts, in the form of whether I'll help you or not, in the form of unsolicited advice, unsolicited opinions, unsolicited direction, any of those things within a partnership, which is a little bit different than a parent and an adult child. It's definitely not good for a parent to attempt to control an adult child. Those controlling behaviors are definitely not good. So we have to be wise to that and be come to a decision within ourselves as to, are we those type of parents, or do we have those type of parents? And if so, what do we plan to do about it? What do we plan to do about it? What can we do about it? What are our plans to find a solution? Because I'm a solution focused individual. I'm a solution focused individual. I'm a solution focused professional. I'm looking for solutions. I don't always want to talk because what I found is too many individuals want to have an excuse and to play the victim. I'm not saying you're not a, for those of you who are truly victims, I don't talk about my victimhood very much because, I've overcome. God has blessed me. I've lived through so much. So many of you who have followed me through the years know that I have overcome sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, just neglect as a child, rejection by one or both parents. And see, these are topics that I've not talked about openly, but it's okay because I'm not a victim. I am victorious. I am a survivor, and I don't feel the need unless really necessary to share certain things. Even at the hands of children have been victimized. Yes, adults can be victimized by their children, doing and saying evil things, and yet we continue to pray and cover them. And let me just say this to anyone, whomever you are, if something has happened on occasion, but it's not a pattern or a history. It's not good as a believer to say vindictive or evil or mean spirited things to your partner, to your spouse. However, if you do this every time, it's not just an occurrence, it's a pattern. If you have disciplined your child, there are different rules now, but if it's every time you get mad, you're spewing out nasty words every single time, it's not just an occurrence. It's a pattern of behavior. If you've had to discipline each of your children or beat your children, I'm laughing because I'm thinking of that term, but it wasn't a history of it. It happened once or twice because they got extremely out of line. But then I know some parents who have not and cannot acknowledge certain things. But if it was not a pattern, even if it was a pattern that every time you're upset, you're using foul language and you're beating them, throwing things and doing, okay, seek professional help. But don't allow anybody to project. Don't allow anybody to label you as something that is untrue, because the truth will always stand when a lie will fall to the ground. It will take its course, but in the end, the truth will prevail. So let's be aware of our own shortcomings and ask God to heal us and to help us. And also, let's be forgiving, because see, as far as me, everyone who has violated me, with the exception of recent happenings, I've forgiven them. That's it. And either they will accept that you forgive them, or they'll become agitated and angry, and they'll show you their true selves. Either way, just live in the truth of who God is in your life. Just live it. Just be it. So many times the enemy takes a hold of our minds and we don't even understand what's going on because we can't truly acknowledge who we are for trying to project onto other people. I'm not mad at anybody. That's why I don't talk too much about my past, because it's not my past that's a problem for me. It's the present. It's people who attempt to control me as an adult. Adults can't control other adults. I've said that to women in relationships. What you do in the bedroom cannot control a man. It can't keep a man faithful to you. It can't keep a man from being abusive towards you. It does nothing but gratify him or her for the moment. So that's the way I tend to live. So I want to help you in identifying not only triggers, but, things that are possibly being suppressed. Not so much about outward, because when you can't change the outward, similar to Paul, the apostle, no, not Paul, forgive me, John the Baptist, he had a thorn in his flesh. John did. John had a thorn in his flesh. So, with that thorn in your flesh, if you can't do anything about it, just ask God to help you to deal with it and never ever chase down a lie. Never ever try to prove or disprove it, because it actually shows you what people think of you. Because the truth will suffice. As bad and ugly as the truth is, if God is there for you, what difference does it make what people think about a lie? So with those red flags, again, that's a segue. Lying is a red flag. Us lying on other individuals. And I can remember an instance where a young lady accused a man of attempting, and she was a minor, attempting to, I guess we can use the term molest her, because it doesn't matter if the young person, the minor, is sexually active or not. If a 40 plus year old, 30 something year old, whatever age, attempts to be intimate with a child, it's what it is. Let's call it what it is. And she called him out and she shared it with other people. And so to take the spotlight off of himself, to take the, conversation away from him, he attempted to accuse this girl, because I'm not going to call her a woman or a young lady, because that's too easy for people to say now, the young lady this and young lady that, to make it, put the word lady in there, to overlook the fact that she's a child. He began to accuse her mom of abusing her, sexually abusing her, CSAing him when they were both children. And the girl's mom was like, it's a blatant lie. See, people will do that. And see, that's unhealthy in relationships when people are lying, whether to get themselves out of trouble or whether to just lie for the sport of it. It's unhealthy and it's a red flag. If you can't be honest with your partner or with your child or with your parent and your friend, then that's definitely a red flag. Red flags are red flags. And oftentimes we choose to ignore those red flags, but lying is definitely a red flag. Excessive criticism. And listen, when I say excessive, these terms are used in so general terms. It's so nuanced today. And so when I read and say excessive, what I'm sharing with you is it happens more often than not. Okay. Excessive. It means regularly occurring, not once every 3, 4, 5, 6 months or once a year, but it happens almost every occasion you're in the company or in conversation, communication with this individual. If they're criticizing you, let me put my glasses on. So yeah, that's a red flag in relationships. Excessive criticism, codependency. I'm seeing a lot of relationships where people are codependent. You'll have two friends and both of their lives are unfulfilled. Both of them are, whether it's male, and I've seen it in men as well. I've counseled men alongside my husband. I don't do that alongside my colleague / pastor. We've counseled men and the relationship, and it's not something that's LGBTQIA, not that, I'm here to discuss that today, but what I mean by that is it's a platonic bromance or relationship between two men, they're friends. But the only thing that they do is, they talk to each other about negative things. It's almost always negative or gossiping about other people. I've seen it in women much more than I have men, but when people can't sit alone with themselves in their regular routine of the day, but they have to be at someone else's home all the time or on the phone with someone else all throughout the day while attempting to regulate their own lives, that may be a codependent relationship, and it's a red flag. It's a red flag because oftentimes the person will not be honest with you. They'll talk with you about other people, other individuals and their issues, while never really owning up to who they are. They'll gossip about their spouses, their children, but not everything, because they want to appear to you to be a certain way. Okay. They want to appear to be, if I may say this, and I may, because this is Candid Conversations with the Real Dr. Rich, they want to appear to be perfect. Especially if they know all of your little red flags, your insynchronicities, your flaws, then of course they want to remain to look a certain way to you. But like I said, I've seen this in men, and right now I'm thinking of a relationship between men where that's what they do, and only God can help us when we're in those type of relationships. But it's definitely a red flag. Codependency or trauma bonding. We can't get past certain things because we're the victims. I don't, and this is just me. This is my experience. I dealt with most of my trauma on my own. Even when social media was out, you cannot really find videos of me talking about it because I'm healed from it. And like I said initially, I'm over those aspects. It's just now I don't want individuals, whether it's friendships, family relationships, dynamics, or spouses. I don't want anybody attempting to control so much of my life and what I do with it. God has freed me, and I want to live a life that is pleasing to God, and I want to do things that I want to do without strings or expectations. So yeah, codependent relationships, trauma bonding, people are going to be stuck in a life of regret, and they'll most likely never look themselves in the mirror and be honest about themselves to themselves. Lack of support is a red flag. If you don't get support, and listen, support looks very different from scenario to scenario, relationship to relationship. Support can be prayer for me. Support can be saying something to me, or providing wise counsel. Support can be saying hi or sharing something. It just looks different. I don't have it in my mind etched out what support looks like. Support can be you doing something for me, such as, if let's do this, for instance. If you're living with me and I've allowed you to live with me, it can be picking up after yourself. That helps me to be able to do whatever else I'm going to do. I'm going to do a live. I do something. Then do your little part. In a relationship, a friendship, it can be you saying, hey, Rich, I want to do this or do that for you. I've had friends who do things for me without me asking. I have no expectations of this, but I'm just sharing with you. Even for me, sharing and supporting, meaning I can purchase your goods or services. I can share information, but there's something that I can do to show that I am, number one, not jealous. Not that I have to prove it, but we're talking about red flags here, right? I can show you that I support you in our relationship. That comes to this particular point, which is a green flag. If the relationship is reciprocal, show some reciprocity, even if I don't have the money to do this and that. I remember sharing with a young woman in her teens. Her friend definitely had funds, but didn't have a vehicle necessarily. I said, well, although you don't have the funds to always eat out or to do this, because I think she was saving, I said, you can be the one to drive your vehicle. I mean, there are ways around, instead of us always trying to get over on people, always trying to, be the ones who are not thinking. We have to think. I often tell Leah Camille, forward thinking, think ahead, forward think. Don't just think about the here and the now and yourself. But I'm finding that there are certain generations, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and even some millennials are very, very, very selfish, very, very, very opportunistic, very, very much so, very much so. But anyway, abusive, then, that's a red flag. Relationships that are abusive, And like I said, it's not like every blue moon something is said that harms the other individual, either hurts them emotionally or psychologically, but physically, maybe just whatever. But if it's a pattern, if that's always the MO, the method of operation, if that's every time you're angry, an expletive comes out, that's when you need to look into it. It's a red flag, maybe. But I don't want to generalize everything, because abuse is not someone saying something once or twice or in a span of a period. But if it's ongoing, if it's excessive, as we mentioned earlier, yes, it's a problem. You ought to be able to see that. Uh, Another red flag, not respecting boundaries. And the opposite of that with the green flag is respecting boundaries. Even if I don't want to respect the boundary, even if I am the parent or the grandparent, there are boundaries that I have to respect. Even in the friendship, there are boundaries that I must respect. People who disrespect boundaries based on their feelings of entitlement or their fragmented emotions, those people are red flags themselves. They are emotional beings, and they definitely don't have control of their emotions. Their emotions have control of them. Substance use or abuse. If there's substance abuse or use, uh, very heavy usage, I'm going to get a drink or I'm going to do this drug just to escape my problem. Listen, you're not the only one. And this is a judgment-free zone. This is just Dr. Rich, the professional, sharing with you here on Candid Conversations. If this is a habit, habitual, every time I'm going, because let me tell you, I've experienced difficult times. I remember an educator, a colleague of mine, she said to me, and you're going to see how this ties in. She said to me, and I knew where it was coming from because Holy Spirit showed me. She said, you're able to look the way you look and dress the way you dress because you have kids who help you. I wasn't going to share with her anything about my children in depth, but it was a lie. My children didn't help me. I made it a point. What did they were they cooking dinners and stuff? No. Washing dishes, chores? Yeah. I washed them. I cooked. I mean, that's teamwork. So let me tell you right now, if you have a problem with it, do in your home what you want to do. If you want to cook and clean, and I've counseled people who have issues with that, have even had problems with their children, their son or daughter with doing that. No judgment there. I understood their plight. And the reason that I could, because I know what that's like. You're cooking, you're cleaning, you're paying the bills and sacrificing for them, and they don't want to do anything. They want to sit around and watch TV or be on their games. I get it. So what I did do, though, was and I said, it's not true, but I wasn't going to get into her just how lazy my children were, because they were lazy. I mean, they weren't extremely lazy. I wouldn't lie on them. They weren't extremely lazy. I'm just sharing a little bit with you, but they were kids. They were doing their things. They had a life, and we agreed to allow them to have that life, as they should, in Leah Camille's words, as they should. However, I knew what her objective was. She was looking for an excuse as to why she wasn't stepping up, why she wasn't doing what I guess she believed she should be able to do: dress a certain way as an educator, look a certain way, whatever, come with, your hair disheveled most days, clothes just like you pulled them out of whatever the case may have been. But that was not my problem. And once I told her, no, my children don't do all of those things, that's not true, because it wasn't. She then went to, well, you have your husband, you have Cedric. And I just decided I was going to call him. I don't know why, because I have a mindset now. I don't have to prove anything. Believe what you want. That's my attitude these days. Believe what you want, baby. You're not God. Who are you? That's my question. Who are you that I have to prove something to you? If it makes you feel better about your life or who you are, go for it, babe. So I did call him that day. He was like, no, I'm not doing this. I work two jobs, because at the time he was. But it just goes to show that people are so dissatisfied with their own lives. They are so, have so much regret in their own lives. They look for something as an excuse for why they're not where they believe they should be. And you have no idea you're being pulled into this cycle of foolishness, this cycle of feeling inadequate or incompetency. I don't know. But yeah, respect boundaries. And if there's substance abuse, you got to drink wine or beer or something to take the edge off every time you're feeling overwhelmed. You may or may not want to check into it. But like I said, I dealt with it the way that I felt like I should deal with it. And my children weren't a problem growing up. They had their issues that I don't want to. I mean, a lot of times had a little embarrassment here and there for things that they did. And, we were judged and ridiculed for it, my husband and I. But, you go through life, and you accept those things happening. But, I knew that one day they would grow up and they would be in society and citizens in society, making a way for themselves and their own families. And so I praise God for that and for them. But the green flags are so much greater to talk about. It's such a better discussion because I could probably go on with 40 other things with the list of red flags, but I hear it so much, I don't even want to discuss it. But green flags in relationships, I have self accountability and responsibility. I'm not looking to blame my husband. Now, there have been times that I've accused him of, this was early on, that I've accused him of allowing people that he brought into my life to attack me and to be a certain way with me. Not physically attack. Let me say that. Not physically, because I don't want to paint a negative picture or a lie, which some people do. They like to live in a lie. That's where their space is, living a lie. But another green flag in relationships, we support personal growth. We support it. We're not being negative about it. I know people who live in the red flag zone. They don't support the green flag. They want people to stay stuck in regret, remorse, rejection. Stay stuck. Stay the old person that we knew. Stay that person. There are certain things that people would love for you to remain, the person who preys on children or who has an identity issue, because they know being free in your identity is liberating, so people can't accept the growth factor. You growing and maturing in the things of God, you growing and maturing in purpose and destiny, you growing and maturing in defining your career and your goals and aspirations. Some moms will even hinder their children. What do you mean by that? They'll promote dependency on the government. You know what I mean? They'll promote that, knowing that having children, and even some siblings will promote it. I mean, some parents do it because they know that you pretending to have a neurological issue so that they can receive financial reimbursement or things of that nature. It's just sickening and disgusting how we are. I'm saying we because we all have our proclivities. We all have things, and not every parent. I'm not saying every mother or every father, every parent does this, but for those who do, it's not good. And then not only with the child, but with the grandchildren, with the great grandchildren, just promoting a sinful life, things that will hinder and not allow the blessings of God to flow. That's a problem. But supporting personal growth is a win in everybody's book. It's a win. It's a win. Cranberry juice, I love it. Supporting a person's personal growth, that may involve career, that may involve education, it may involve starting a family or an entrepreneur, whatever it is, morphing into who you are destined to be, not staying stuck or having a arrested development. That's a great thing, but everybody won't be on board with it. But if you are one who supports personal growth, kudos to you. You're a green flag. You're a walking, talking green flag. Those who support self care and are not selfish. Listen, I know so many individuals who have reared their children and now their children are supporting them. I was in a restaurant a few weeks ago and I saw a woman, a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, if I may, and her daughters were there supporting her as they supported a family member in their endeavor to have this restaurant. And they were all happy. It wasn't forced. So that's what I'm saying. It's when people aren't forced to do something, because self-care is necessary. And when you've not only raised your children, but other people's children or other people's responsibilities, it would seem to me that people would celebrate, but you have so many people who are more selfish than they are celebratory. Did you get that? So many individuals are more selfish than they are celebratory, because if it doesn't benefit them and what they want to do in life, they become angry, they become annoyed, they become very defensive, they become antagonistic. You always want to be the protagonist in the relationship. So, but not at the detriment of losing yourself. Treat whatever self-care looks like to you. It could be just not feeling forced to do things you don't want to do without having to explain yourself. It could be having regular manicures and pedicures. That's not a self-care thing for me. Yeah. Self-care for me is enjoying education, joining my sisters who are a part of helping other women feel great about themselves, women connectors. It's writing, it's doing what I want to do because I'm in a certain part of life now. It's not chasing down people who lurk, stalk, also troll. It's not about that for me. Some people are so unfulfilled in life. Their life's mission is to serve the kingdom of darkness while dressed up as angels of light. All right. Another green flag is self-reflective. You look at your own self internally before you're looking at other people, and you reflect on what's great about your life, what you need to tweak, and what absolutely needs to change. And I often used to say when I was in the studio at KWAM, I used to say, redefine the terms of the contract, renegotiate the contract. It's up to you. You can do that in your life. Renegotiate the terms of the contract. If you went into the relationship one way, and you don't want to do that anymore, be mature enough, be bold enough, be courageous enough, be kind enough and loving enough, thinking about your self-care and your welfare to renegotiate the terms of the contract. Oftentimes people will end a relationship. I had a family member to tell me that they've outgrown the relationship, and I'm quite fine with that, because I don't know how people can be in a relationship anyway when when one of us is carrying around what I've already discussed with the red flags: jealousy, envy, or desiring that somebody else be envious of us. This one relative, every time, as many friends as they had, every time they would purchase a new vehicle, they wanted me to take them and get it. I was happy for them. See, sometimes you just have to realize that everybody is not walking in the same life or rut that we are. If I'm walking around with a spirit of jealousy, doesn't mean everybody else is jealous. And by the flip side of the coin, just because I'm walking around excited about life doesn't mean everybody else is. Okay. But it's not my assignment. Get that? To fix someone else. God allows me to know who my assignments are. And some of us need so much validation. We can't even sit at the feet of the master and allow him to validate us so that we don't Not to be haughty, because I've heard that word before too. Not to be haughty, but to be confident in Him, to be bold in Him, to be who you are in Him. Whole, WHOLE. If your confidence bothers people, that's their problem, not yours. Yes, long-standing healthy relationships. Those are green flags. Empathetic, vulnerable. Now, for those who are coming out of narcissistic relationships, the vulnerability and the empathy has to be monitored, because you don't want to enter into those types of relationships again, ever again. And so you need to build yourself up in your spirit. Okay, build yourself up in your spirit. Having a spiritual lifestyle, that is also a green flag. Healthy hobbies, open, healthy communication. Okay, healthy hobbies, things. Do you have another hobby other than gossiping about other people's lives and living in the past, or, just trying to get other people to be bitter like yourself? What hobbies do you have that you truly enjoy? What do you have? Yeah. So anyway, that's one reason I have not started the assignment of daily or regular consistent discussions on narcissism, because I have to come out differently. I can't be like all the other individuals who educate and who assist those who are coming from narcissistic relationships or families. God won't allow me to do it that way. So I have to be unique. I have to be authentic, and I have to be completely clear on the assignment. So, yeah. But another green flag in relationships, healthy boundaries, and respecting boundaries. You're not doing something in a vindictive manner to teach someone a lesson. We have to trust God in those areas. So that's another green flag, when you have healthy boundaries and you respect the boundaries of others. If not, go back to the drawing board, ask God to help. Imposing your views on someone else's marriage, someone else's parental style, someone else's, especially when you yourself haven't been the ideal parent, except on social media, or the lies that we tell other people. If we can't be honest about the type of parent we are, whether it's a adoptive parent, foster parent, surrogate parent, biological parent, or step parent, then we definitely don't, or if we haven't parented through the stages, then we definitely need to leave certain topics alone. We definitely need to do that. However, I will say this: respecting individuals' boundaries, keeping your comments, your thoughts, my opinions to myself without an invitation, that's respecting boundaries. It's definitely respecting boundaries. I don't have a comment on somebody else to say whether or not they're a fit or unfit mother, because my role for the most part is to encourage a woman to be better. And I know if she turns to God, if she establishes a firm foundation in Him, she'll be a better mother. He'll be a better father. Even when the trials of life come, being a better individual is the goal for most. Being the perfect, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. We can't be the perfect wives or the perfect spouses, perfect parents, or perfect children. But one thing that I do know is that respecting people's boundaries is a great thing. Not interjecting or imposing my opinions, thoughts, and views on how they parent is also a good thing, unless I'm welcomed to do so. If you're sharing with me information and you want my input, I will do so. Otherwise, it's not up for me. But some people sit in a superior role and they feel like they have a right to say something about someone else's parenting. Yeah. Wow. But anyway, that's my time. It's the real Dr. Rich. I've enjoyed sharing this time with you. We've been on for a little bit more than an hour. I had no idea. But follow me, follow me, follow me. I'll be giving more tips authentically. My own thoughts, not something copied and pasted, not something clipped and saved, but definitely my own thoughts on these particular topics. This has been Candid Conversations with the real Dr. Rich. I've enjoyed you. Let's do more of the green flags than the red flags. I'll be back real soon. Until next time, it's been real. Have a great remainder of your Sunday.
No topic is taboo.
Let's have a candid conversation. Talk about the issues that you're facing and the dreams that you're chasing. Dr. Rich got the tools to help you make it. We can talk about it. Let's have a candid
It's all
conversation.
about me. Let's have a candid conversation. It's all about me and you. Let's have a candid conversation. No topic is taboo.
Now, Pastor, you got condition on your love for me? Or you gonna just let me do what I want to do?
Yeah, I'm what dude call a man.
Let's have a candid conversation. No topic is taboo. When I talk to you,
Dr. Rich, y'all.
oh, it's all about me and you.
Me and you.
Let's have a candid conversation. No topic is taboo.
Dr. Rich, y'all.